What's going on, world? What's going on, gamers? So this video is going to be about how delusional PlayStation 5 fanboys are. And I mean, it's really bad. You know, we see things that got revealed here. I did a video recently, but this one's going to be a little bit different. And how also just toxically delusional they can be. By the way, y'all, like, subscribe if you like this type of content. I'll be doing all types of controversy, high video game content, streaming, all that type of stuff. That would definitely help the channel out, and you're supporting somebody intelligent. So we see here that they're charging $700 for the price. A lot of people are pissed off because, one, there's no stand with it, and two, there's no hard drive. So that means you have to pay $80 for a hard drive, and you have to pay $30 for the stand. So you'll be spending 810 bucks, not even including tax. You know what I mean? They also jacked the price up on the controller by $5 recently. And if you're in Japan, you're paying $850 about for the console by itself, not including what I just said. And they definitely like physical copies. So yeah, they're trying to screw them over. In Canada, somebody was saying close to 1,000 or something. Man, that's insane. Looks like they're trying to go back to the PS3 days. But all in all, one thing that people just don't understand about this console by trying to compare it to high-end gaming PCs, and this is what this is about, is that you really have some people that believe that this console is going to be able to compete with a 4080. There's some people that think that. Somebody even said 4090. We're going to get into that. It won't even compete with a 4070. So first of all, let's understand some things here. We're going to look at some specs here. The PlayStation 5 CPU is an 8-core Zen 2, right? Because we're going to do some math here. And that 3.5 is variable. That's the peak that it can hit. They didn't even mention any improvements upon the CPUs. If they did, they would have mentioned it. The Series X CPU is actually better. But the base clock of the PlayStation 5 CPU is actually 3.0. The base clock of the Series X is 3.2. So if it needs to, it kicks up to 3.8 on the Series X, and it kicks up to 3.5 on the PlayStation 5. You're going to figure out why all this is important. Same thing with the GPU. The GPU on the PlayStation 5 doesn't even stay at 10.3. That's the max it can hit. Series X is about 12. RAM-wise, they're about the same, but the Series X has a higher clock to RAM speed. But the PS5 Pro gets pretty much on par with the Series X memory. And the GPU on the PS5 Pro is better. And we're going to tell you exactly what that is. The CPU, though, is not better than the Series X CPU. So the only thing the PS5 Pro has better than the Series X is the GPU. And it's around 15 and 16 teraflops. I'm going to explain that. So these people just don't be delusional. And you can look up more raw stats by comparing it to PC parts, and they'll break down what it actually can do. Something else they don't show when it comes to consoles is the L cache, the memory on the CPU. They're not telling you anything about that. You don't get any of that. So let's go over here to this guy. He says those complaining about the PS5 Pro price and RTX 4070. You're already wrong right there. So that's why I stopped taking you serious when I read that. Which is about the same preference as the PS5 Pro GPU. No, it's not. Okay, so we already went over this. Sony said that it's a 45% increase, right? So we just saw that the PlayStation 5 at max has 3 teraflops? Guys, what's 50% of 10? It's 5. What's 10 plus 5? 15 teraflops, right? Help me out here. All right. RTX 4070 teraflops. We ready for this? 29.1 teraflops, 1 to 1. Right? 29 teraflops, not 15, not 16. We're not done here yet, though. Let's go to the RTX 4060 teraflops. Around 15. See, they're going to be trying to compete with the 4060. It's what I've been telling people. Now, we see here, he says 4070. And so as we go down here, he tries to bring up a graph. By the way, so let's go down to this graph. The graph that he brings up is something, by the way, of a comparison for games like when they first launched. And he also brings up a Cyberpunk graph, and that stuff is outdated. You know what I mean? It's like that's not going to compare to all these games right now when you're using different engines and different optimizations. Definitely if they're CPU heavy. And a lot of games now are this generation are CPU heavy. He was sitting here calling people stupid, saying that most games are CPU bound, which I need to find. See, only CPU bound games won't see a big uplift. There are only a handful of those in this gen. Most games are GPU bound. Actually, you don't know what you're talking about. You're incorrect. So this is the interesting thing. And we're going to see, we know how many developers want to save money, right? Let's look at this right quick. Watch this. You know how many people develop on the Unreal Engine? Unreal Engine 5 is CPU heavy and requires a good CPU to run effectively. Damn, what just happened? How many developers are developing Unreal Engine 5 or developing games on Unreal Engine 5? So many, because it's free. You know what I mean? And a lot of other new games coming out too are very CPU demanding. The PlayStation 5 CPU cannot be upgraded. It's the same CPU, so it's CPU bound, as I've been telling people. Now, what I find interesting is that, you know, people like him just don't know what they're talking about. So they, it's like, dude, just stop. You know what I mean? Let's go take a look at this right here. Enough said. 1599 GPU alone. You're crazy to think that the PlayStation 5 Pro is comparable to a 4090. God, this guy went off the deep end into the 4090. Now we're moving into 60 to 70. Yeah. No, buddy. Price tag, no disk drive. Make sure a console data on Rival is just coming from someone who spent 1400 on 4090. So let's go up here a little bit. We're gonna look at something else here real quick. Don't listen to people that are saying the PS5 Pro will be closer on par with the 4090. See, they're that delusional. Because it was a thread that was going around a lot. I can find you guys a lot of that. But let's give an example. Here's another guy that's a delusional. There's another PlayStation 5 fanboy that's very annoying. That's been doing this for a while. He's at 33.5 teraflops. Shut up. You know what I mean? And I just proved to you that a 45% increase that they said the PS5 Pro had GPU wise was scaled with the 10.3 teraflops, and it doesn't even have that as a base. So yeah, it's around 14 to 15 teraflops. But they're sitting over here feeding people fantasies like it's some PS6 specs. You know what I mean? The 4070 isn't even 33.5 teraflops. Know how much that card costs? Like $500 by itself. You would need the CPU to even run that. And these benchmarks that guy was running are for PCs that have the CPU that can run those cards to even get those stats. The PlayStation 5 Pro does not have a better CPU, so you're not going to even get those benchmark stats. So it's going to be competing to try to match the 4060 without the 4060 having those stats with the CPU that's there. Let's go over to this comment on my channel. Here goes this guy right here. Judaiah, I am king. I'm capping so hard. I own a PC myself, which by the way, he's lying. And this device can outperform most high-end PCs. I dare anyone come in the comment section and argue otherwise, and I'll school you. The hate towards Sony is real. Yeah, this guy right here. This dude right here. He's another ignorant moron. So let's take a look at my comment here, if they'll let me. Actually, we can pull it up right here so we can get everything right here. But you see, he hasn't replied yet. Take you 41 minutes? I said, yeah. Let's move over here a little bit. I said, yeah, just shown how you know nothing about how specs work. The only thing the PlayStation 5 Pro has better than the Series X is a GPU. I just showed you guys that. High-end PCs, what is wrong with you? It's CPU limited. 3.0 base gigahertz and goes up to 3.5. And if they add 10% boost, which they didn't even say that, that was a rumor. My CPU goes up to 5.2 gigahertz. My Ryzen 9 with higher L123 caches and much higher single multi-thread performance easily. PlayStation 5 is stuck with the same CPU, and the GPU would try to compete with an RTX 4060. Memory is stuck at 16 gigs when PC can go up to 64 gigs. I mean, hell, you can do more than that if you want. Educate yourself. 45% increase from 10 teraflops GPU isn't even 50%. and 50% of 10 is 5. 15 teraflops, if it can. 3 gigahertz CPU, 16 gigs of RAM, lol. 29 teraflops over here. I have a 4070, by the way. 5.2 gigahertz CPU, 32 gigabytes of RAM, which I could do more if I want. Left in the dust. He hasn't said anything, but he wants to come on my page and call me a liar, when clearly he doesn't know what he's talking about. See, this is the thing with people like that. That it's just like, um, what are you talking about here? And this guy right here spreading false information, 33.5 teraflops. Yeah, what happened? June 22nd, world most powerful console, 33 teraflops. See? And he said 499. How would you even think that at 33 teraflops? These people annoy me, man. RTX 4070. That's a TI. If you want to go for ones without that, you probably can get a good deal for 500 bucks. That card alone. And oh yeah, those other people saying it would match a 4090. Let's just look at the price of the 4080, please. It's $1,000 card. Common sense, right? Not gonna happen. What are we talking about over here? What is this stuff you guys are making up? Oh, not only that, let's continue to talk about some other things that Sony did, right? Like when they did the PS5 Pro presentation, they were trying to show you differences in a rendering between old games like Ghost of Tsushima, which came out in what, like 2018 or 2019, Ratchet and Clank, a cartoon game with like Nintendo graphics. You know what I mean? And then they did Last of Us 2, a PS4 game, once again. Why didn't they do any new games? Because the CPU limitation would have shown. And even then, that comparison was kind of like you didn't even show me the frames that were actually there. You were just telling me that. It was a poor presentation, and it had a lot of dislikes on the ratio. Like I'd say, there's about 70% dislike compared to like the rest who are probably fanboys, and then people who just probably haven't even gotten it yet and just want to upgrade. There's nothing wrong if you want to get the console, but we're just saying that it's $700 because they wanted to force that upon you by putting a 2 terabyte SSD in there, and you don't have a disk drive, and you don't have a stand. Now, some people are trying to compare it to the Series X 2 terabyte, but the thing is there is that it has the disk drive inside of there. So if they remove the disk drive and the stand nonsense, then yeah, it would be 500 bucks. So honestly, that means the PS5 Pro is about $200 more than the Series X. Not saying that it's a terrible deal, but when you think about people getting a consoles for a budget price, it's not going to really move anyone. Maybe when GTA comes out, because that's the best setting that you can get around that time, and there might be some sales and some deals there. But these people need to know what they're talking about before they start making up nonsense and running around like in these fantasies that are just not real. I own all consoles I've always had. I've been gaming since 1994. You know what I mean? My PlayStation 5 controller is right here. My Series X controller is right here, but that's what I use on my Series X. What I use for my PC is this one right here. You know what I mean? And my Nintendo Switch controller is back there in the drawer. I don't feel like getting it out. And I'm looking forward to the Switch 2. Nintendo's going to blow the market off the map. You know, $399 probably, right? And they're just going to destroy it because they have really good games. The reason why people wanted to get a PS5 Pro if they wanted to, what would be the reason? Is because of great video games. But I'm looking at first party and I'm like, it's not that impressive, you know, a bunch of movie drop-off games. You're putting more games on PC now, and the live service games are going to get put on PC if they're good. Helldivers was solid, but they screwed that up. This other woke DI crap, yeah, nobody's going to want that. It's going to fail. So the future that I could see is that if you want people to get something like that, it has to be for like really good video games, and there has to be a difference. But honestly, I just think they made a mistake with the Pro so far, not only in the price but in the presentation. But I don't know. This is kind of what I wanted to cover about this because these people over here just do not know what they're talking about, and there's a lot of them. That's just something I wanted to cover now. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this and comment in the section. Oh, and by the way, if you're watching my video who commented, please feel free to say something about this after you just got scolded with real stats instead of making up stuff without providing any. All right, y'all. Peace out. Like, subscribe, you like this type of content. Let me know what y'all think.